most of this through, but this is kind of what we're working with. So a lot of this is rocks now, but some of it you'll find definitely some little balls of clay that will break up and go through. So yeah, it's working pretty well, but
it's surprising to find this much clay in like the gravelly area, but there is a high sand content in there too, but it does stick together. It really shows up once it's wet.
Yeah. Yeah, overall we're really happy with our clay situation.
That this would be good clay soil just looking at it initially, but it actually is, I think, better than even what we had down at the pond, where it splits apart a lot, it's very blocky, it's very orange, and I think that is expansive clay, which is actually kind of problematic, and you have to add a lot of sand to, I believe, whereas this we're adding some sand to it, but it seems to be pretty much good to go the way that it is. I mean, you can even see the way that it's balling up in there.
Yeah, I'll go show some of the samples we've done, and thus far all of our samples have basically communicated to us that we have some really ideal site clay, so we're really happy about that. Here are some samples we've been messing around with. So it's working on the walls. So Eric kind of has the ratios written down, 1:3 clay to sand. And this is the finish, so this doesn't actually have any fiber. This doesn't have any straw in it. So just kind of working on what that last finish layer will actually be. And I'm actually really happy with the way this is turning out. We may try and get it to lighten a little bit. We're gonna play around with that with maybe a little bit more sand, or thinking about getting some kaolin clay, which is basically pure white. There's some different options that you can think about for finishes and what you actually want it to look like. But overall, it's a really nice tone. It hasn't cracked at all, which is amazing for having no fiber and being a finish coat. So we'll see. These are the same too. This one's just a little bit thicker. This is some floor samples. So the floor is clay-based as well. This is 1:4 clay to sand. We really like this. Oh, this 1:3 over here. It did crack, but I actually think that's from being moved around. It doesn't look like the kind of cracks that you get as it dries. Not positive. Do you see this crack? Whereas this tiny little crack, there's a couple here. That looks more like from
That's like a
it drying out, yeah. Pretty impressive for having no straw, no manure. I don't know if we've even talked about manure much. Maybe we should. We'll get into that a little bit too, but just to give you some ideas of what we're working with. And then this is another example of some wall rough plaster, I think a base coat. And yeah, little to no, I don't think I really see any cracks in these actually, which is awesome. So again, we're really happy with what we're seeing. We still have to kind of just dial it in. But now that these are dry, it's helping give us a really good idea of what we're gonna kind of go for. And we have some samples on these extra hay bales or straw bales that we have sitting outside. They got a little bit rained on, so where this is dark is just where it got re-wet. But this light part is another wall finish sample, and I am really liking that. No cracks at all. It got pretty light, which is nice. Yeah, we'll see. And then this is actually a floor, like a base floor sample, so that has a lot of straw in it. That's not the finished coat, but we did linseed oil this, so we're gonna be using boiled linseed oil to help cure and seal the floor. And so that'll darken it quite a bit. Otherwise it would look more like this, but we do want the floor quite a bit darker than the walls, so we're still playing around with that, but pretty happy with it so far.
I sprayed this with clay slip earlier. Basically just like a thin milkshake, chocolate milk consistency. Just gonna spray it down a little bit. Since it's been a minute, I've got my mix. We'll see how this goes. It's a bit wetter than I think it's supposed to be. We'll see. It's just kind of falling off actually. too wet. I did what I thought was about the right amount of water, but I was also mixing it in the mixer, and I think I might need to do it with a paddle and a drill. I might have to try to do a thinner mix for the top. Probably what I'll do is, if I can get a mix that will stick to the top, and after we have it sort of shaped, I'll probably do burlap stapled to here, back around before we do another coat. Yeah, I think this is just too wet. Basically straw clay. And maybe too much straw as well, because I was trying to probably try to pack a lot of this into some of these spots, and then try again for the top. I think I got the mix figured out. Just way too much water and way too much straw the first time, but now got this. Basically will just stick to my hand, at least for a little bit. It's much more workable. Oh yeah. Still might take a little bit to get it to key in there, but it seems like I can compress it and really, yeah, work it in there. Some of this is against the long grain of the straw, and it doesn't seem to take as well. I actually didn't sift any of this either to get the sand out, because when I mixed it with water, it was a lot thicker than the last time, which is what I needed, but I couldn't get it through the sieve very easily.
Eric is working on the first window. Super sticky upside down mixture from one of our books that he's been kind of tweaking the recipe on. So
it's finally working.
Yeah, yesterday was not going well for him, but today is a lot better.
I did end up putting wire mesh in here too.
Yeah, because this area needed quite a bit of work and it's upside down, he did end up putting some wire mesh to kind of hold some of the mix up there so we can get the shape and kind of build it up so that it's fully ready for plaster. And it's looking really good now. I can actually start to see the shape that will all be. So this is like mostly clay, some water, and then like 2-inch straw.
I even videoed mixing it yesterday.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's looking really nice. So these being secondhand windows.
Oh, good. That's
this
so much
one, just this one, I think, oddly enough.
The one up in the loft might have it. I can't remember.
Doesn't look like it. Has like a tint, not for us.
Oh, sick.
Last window. It's a real house.
Wow.
We're missing 1 or 2 of the cranks, yeah. But other than that, they really are in good shape. They're wood, casement, which are 2 of the main things we wanted, and they open. They look really good. Another thing, checked off the list. Here is the bedroom. So it is drying out really well. Still kind of splotchy as it dries, but some walls are probably 90% of the way there. And it's just so beautiful. I love the way the plaster looks. I love the way the light hits the plaster and the niches and the deep set windows. That was always something that I imagined. This is the first wall I did. The back of the closet that you won't really see. And it's a little bit rough and ready, but it was good practice. So yeah, we're really happy with how it's all looking so far. So this is plaster that Eric made
A couple days ago.
2 days ago.
Something like that.
So he's just kind of whipping it back into shape.
So all the water tends to just rise from the top. And so you get bits that are just like pretty sandy and dry towards the bottom. Now it's much more.
And in general, you've kind of liked
mean?
the texture
Really
as
fluffy.
it sat for a little while, right?
Yeah, it seems to incorporate better. It's probably has something to do with the clay like fully hydrating, but also the enzymes in the manure are probably doing some work.
Everything just seems to come together and it gets like fluffy and creamy and really spreadable.
Yeah.
Almost has like a gelatinous thing
Little bit,
going
yeah.
on. So it's really interesting to just see the different stages of it and kind of figure out what is the most workable.
It's like a nice batter that's been incorporated really well.
Yeah. Who was it that decided to do actual straight corners? Oh yeah, it was me. Our beautiful wall that we were working on day before yesterday, I think, is drying and looking really, really good. Yeah, we're really happy with it. It's getting nice and light. There's one tiny little crack that we're gonna kind of patch up, but overall, looks great. Some areas we need to smooth, like the bottom of this niche, but super happy with it. And Eric is now starting on this other living room / dining room wall. So we're gonna finish this wall today, and we'll see how far across we get past that. Just getting some, well, I guess basically a base coat of the finished plaster on top of the base coat to hold the burlap. And then we'll finish plaster over top of that.
Yeah.
Just for added structure, basically, right?
It's mainly because this is spanning the window buck wood framing. You can actually see over here, we have tar paper over the wood framing. And so this is spanning the gap from the wood framing to the bale, just because the wood moves at a different rate than the bales. So this just basically provides reinforcement.
Just many layers of structure, basically, especially because we'll use the windowsills as shelves, kind of, stuff like that. And any surface like that, you just want to be really reinforced.
Yeah, there's different things you can use for reinforcement. Like, there's also this fiberglass lath, which actually works out pretty well. This burlap is pretty tight, so I have a hard time getting it to adhere and stay up top. You can use metal lath too, but they recommend not using metal lath if you don't have to with clay, because it is hydrophilic and metal can rust. So burlap is a great option.
Eric got the vent hood mounted and drywalled yesterday, and it looks so beautiful. Just exactly what I hoped for. It's very low profile since everything is so small. So I'm gonna mud all of those joints now, and then we'll plaster right over top of the drywall.
On to the almost the last section of bale wall that's getting plastered, and this is the kitchen, so it'll just continue over onto this drywall and wrap the corner. But yeah, I was just putting up this fiberglass lath because there's a fairly big gap in between. And yeah, this stuff has been working pretty well for voids, just to provide a little bit of a substrate for the plaster. So yeah, I just doing a little skim coat up through here on this, and then I'll trowel up through the rest of the wall. So yeah, we're getting close on the finished plaster. This vent hood is getting close to being dry, so it's starting to get to a point where I can buff it out a little bit more, but we've been finding that plaster on drywall, it just sets very differently and it's a lot more delicate, and you can't burnish it nearly as easily, especially with a trowel. The trowel wants to pull on it and it wants to pull it off the drywall. But we have been using just this piece of plastic from a plastic container, especially on like trowel marks and stuff, to buff them out. It's a little bit more delicate, and there's a point where the plaster is kind of leather hard. But we've been finding you can smooth stuff out a bit more. But this is still a little bit too wet. It wants to kind of pull it. It's a little bit grabby. Like I said, on the bale walls, we don't have this issue at all. Probably because the base coat really holds the finished plaster, but on the drywall, it's not nearly as stable. But it seems to hold up once it's dry. I've been coming back periodically to do some touch-ups, especially on the edges. Just kind of smooth stuff out a little bit.
Eric is about to finish the last window in the whole house.
Good feeling.
Yeah. Honestly, like, all of the tricky parts with the clay plaster, at least, are pretty much done. The windows took a bit to figure out, but they weren't that bad. The niches were pretty tricky, but it's all just time consuming. So this is the bathroom, and over here we are going to do lime plaster on the rest of the walls, which maybe we'll talk about that later, why we kind of decided to go that route. So this is the last of the clay plaster, and the lime plaster that we will be doing is very minimal inside, so we're feeling really good. We're getting super close, and the windows look beautiful. This wall is the stud wall, this portion of the wall, so this window is not even as deep set, so even less work to do, actually. Yeah, it feels great to finish up the last window at least. And then directly behind me is where I've been working. I just did this wall and the wall around that corner going into the living room. That's our bedroom door, so I just have this portion and this little strip above the door to do, and then that is officially the last clay plastering we will be doing on the walls. Then we have to start on the floors. This will almost be the view when you're in the bathtub. It's our last tiny area of clay plaster. And as much as I have not hated this part, I'm also very excited to be done. This is such an anticlimactic last spot too. Now that we are done clay plastering, just kind of making a game plan for what's next, which will happen very fast. Can't stay here long. We have to move on to the next thing, like today. So game plan now is floors. So to start that, we have to get everything out which we've definitely accumulated a lot of tools and stuff in here. We still have straw bales that were left over in here. Just a lot of stuff. So we have to find places for that, which is not easy because we only have so many covered places. So we're gonna be working on clearing out and cleaning today. I'm gonna get everything just swept off, like all of the plates and stuff up top, the area in the loft, the windows, the windowsills, everything, and just try and get any debris, dirt, dust, stuff like that cleaned off so that when we do the floors, there isn't gonna be random stuff kind of falling and getting things dirty. So we're excited to move on to the floors. Hopefully it goes, we're feeling like it's gonna go pretty quickly, especially since it's just getting stuff down and not on vertical walls. I think the big thing will of course be getting it really level. So we have a laser level for that. We're gonna do about 1 inch thickness is the plan. So Eric kind of did some calculations for how much sifted clay and everything we're gonna need. But yeah, today, at least first half of the day, is just cleaning and clearing, and then we'll probably start sifting. I also have to go pick up hay, take the cows down, go pick up meat from a local farm that we use and love, and make some food. So yeah, it's nice to have a day of a little bit of reset, but also we're moving right on to the next thing.